dishes. Today we're going to make Tahinopita. Tahinopita is just the Greek word for tahini cake. This cake is delicious, it's easy to make, and it's vegan because there's no dairy and there are no eggs in here. There's not even any olive oil or vegetable oil in here because it's made with tahini paste, which naturally has some oil in there. It's just so aromatic and delicious. This goes great with a nice hot cup of tea or coffee. You can customize it with your favorite dried fruit or even chocolate. All of those step-by-step instructions and suggestions are going to be on the blog post on dimitrasdishes.com. Let's go over the ingredients so we can get started. For the wet ingredients, we have some granulated sugar in the mixing bowl, some vanilla extract, tahini paste. We're going to use the zest and the juice of an orange, some baking soda, ground walnuts, raisins. For the dry ingredients, we have some all-purpose flour, some ground cardamom, a little bit of salt, and baking powder. First things first, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and get your baking pan ready. I have a 9-inch baking pan that I'm going to spray with baking spray. And I'm also going to line it with some parchment paper. I'm going to lightly spray the parchment paper as well. And then what I like to do to add a little bit of sweetness and crunch, I'm just going to sprinkle some granulated sugar on the bottom and on the sides of the pan. So we're going to need the zest and the juice of an orange. I have clementines here. You can use whatever sweet citrus that you like. So first I'm going to get the zest off of it. We need about a tablespoon of orange zest. This looks like a little bit more than a tablespoon, but I love orange zest, so I always add a little bit more. So I did 2 clementines here. Now I'm just going to juice them, but before I do that, I'm just going to whisk together the dry ingredients. So we need a cup of orange juice. As soon as you have a cup, set it aside. Now it's time to combine all of the wet ingredients. I'm using a tabletop mixer, but you could definitely do this by hand. If you have a big mixing bowl and a whisk, the job will be done. So make sure as soon as you open your jar of tahini that you mix it really well because it tends to separate and the oil rises to the top and then the thick tahini paste stays on the bottom. So go ahead and mix it really well. I started off, I had 2 different containers of tahini. I bought one that was in a little tin and the other one was in a jar. And when I went to mix the tahini that was in the tin, it was hard like a rock. So I just set it aside and I'm not using that right now. Every tahini brand is different. Some are very fresh, some aren't. They're all processed in different ways. So try to find one that's really fresh and creamy. You'll know which one is good once you open it up and then just kind of stick with that brand. If you have a Middle Eastern or Mediterranean market nearby, that's probably the best place to buy it because it's sold, the turnaround is really fast. So the turnaround is really high because they sell a lot. So you'll probably find a good brand there and a fresh one. So in order to get it into a measuring cup, I'm just gonna spray it lightly with this pan spray. So it can get out of the measuring cup and into the mixing bowl. And we're gonna need a cup of tahini. And I'm also gonna add a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And I'm just gonna mix this with a whisk attachment until it's all combined. All it takes is about 2 minutes and it's all ready and mixed. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna combine the orange juice with a teaspoon of baking soda and make sure that you do this in a container or a measuring cup that's bigger, that holds more than 1 cup of liquid because it is gonna rise up. I also like to do it on top of the mixing bowl. And then just add the juice and the soda to the tahini mixture. And don't be worried if it starts to seize up and starts to look kind of like muddy or something like that. Don't worry about it, it's all gonna come together just fine. Give it another mix. This time the tahini was very light and airy and it had lots of oil in it, so it did not seize up. But I am telling you that sometimes if you're gonna use a drier tahini paste, sometimes you open a can of tahini and you use some of it and you don't mix it well and some of that oil gets used in another recipe. You're gonna have the drier tahini paste left in the jar and it will cause this to seize up a little. Don't worry about it. If you're concerned, you can just add maybe 2 tablespoons of a vegetable oil in there and it will help the situation. So the wet ingredients are done. Now I'm just gonna combine the walnuts and the raisins in a separate bowl. And because we want the dry fruit to just be throughout the whole cake and not sink down to the bottom, I am gonna take a couple tablespoons of the flour mixture and I'm gonna add it to the raisins and the walnuts. 2 tablespoons should be good. And mix it all together. This is gonna help keep them suspended in the cake rather than sinking to the bottom. Now you could use any dry fruit here that you like. You could substitute the raisins for cranberries. You can chop up some dates and use those. You can just do a combination of your favorite dry fruit, maybe some figs. anything would be good. Even you could even leave the dates out and do some dark chocolate chips. Those would be amazing in this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding the dry ingredients a little bit at a time until it's all combined. Once all of the flour is incorporated, then go ahead and add the raisins and the walnuts. Once it's ready, we're going to go ahead and transfer it to our prepared baking pan. But you always want to make sure that you go in one last time with a spatula to catch anything that might be stuck to the sides and the bottom of the mixing bowl. This batter is going to be very, very thick. Don't worry about it. It is going to make a beautiful, dense, flavorful cake. You're going to want to make sure that your oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Bake this on the center rack for about 35 to 40 minutes. Once you insert a toothpick to the center of the cake and it comes out clean with just a few crumbs attached, you'll know it's ready. Personally, I like to keep it a little bit underbaked. There's no eggs in it, so you don't have to worry about it. I like how it has a little bit of a fudgy consistency when it's a little bit underbaked. It's a matter of preference. However you like it. I'm going to show you what it looks like as soon as it comes out. So my cake was ready in 40 minutes. I like mine slightly undercooked, so that way it has a little bit of a fudgy center to it. It's so good. It almost tastes like there's tahini butter in the center. It's absolutely delicious. Gets almost like a little bit of a brownie consistency in the center. You can definitely take it all the way up to 55 minutes, maybe an hour. It just depends on your oven. As soon as you insert a toothpick inside the center and it comes out totally clean without any wet crumbs attached to it, then you'll know that it's fully cooked and more on the drier side. This is going to be a dense cake. It's not like a moist chocolate cake. It is moist because of the tahini butter in there. I keep saying tahini butter, but the tahini paste in there, but it's much denser and it is more of like a tea coffee cake than it is of a birthday cake, if that makes any sense. Anyhow, the house smells amazing. Once it comes out of the oven, then let it cool in the pan for about 10 minutes. Then go in there with a knife and loosen the cake around and flip it over and put it on a serving dish or on a cake pedestal and let it cool completely before you go and you cut into it. Now, because I'm making this video and I didn't want to wait an hour, I cut into it while it was still a little bit warm. I don't recommend it if you're serving it like that because it just should cool completely before you serve it, but I did, and it's still going to be good anyway. I'm going to go in and take a bite. So good. I love the cardamom in there with the orange. It just goes so well together. The tahini just gives such a nice aromatic sesame flavor. If you wanted to leave out the dried fruit, in this case I use walnuts and raisins. You can substitute it with any other nuts and any other cranberries or figs or something like that, or dates. You could leave that all out and instead put some dark chocolate chips in here or dark chocolate chunks, whatever you have on hand. The chocolate with cardamom and orange is a flavor combination that is made in heaven and would be great in this. Once it cools down completely, you could also dust it with some powdered sugar and serve it with a little more sweetness on top. Or you can take it up another notch and either drizzle some chocolate ganache on top of it or even an orange glaze. So for the orange glaze, it's just a regular glaze with confectioner sugar and orange juice. You just mix the two together until you get the consistency that you're looking for. If you want a thinner consistency for the glaze, you would do more orange juice. If you want it thicker and more white and less transparent, you would do more confectioner sugar and just drizzle that on top. There are so many flavor combinations and I put them all in the blog post. So you're going to want to go on over to dimitrasdishes.com to print this recipe and get all of my suggestions on all the different ways you can make this. I hope you guys make this, call some friends over, serve this with some tea or coffee and enjoy it. This keeps well for days just out on the countertop because there is no dairy in it and no eggs. It's just so delicious. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.